So I've not been feeling well, and in fact, my whole body aches. Um, yeah, okay, I've got another one. But living alive with 1/4 H. Neither of those are going to be. Well, the second one doesn't make any sense, but it will when my movie comes out. Anyway, today's H. Let's start. There's a lot. And first of all, I got this playing for keeps. You might be wondering, like, why would I listen to this huge thing about Michael Jordan? Well, you know, my brother was into basketball, and we lived, not in Illinois, but close enough, and during the days of Michael Jordan. So, yeah, and my excuse is that my brother liked Michael Jordan, so I might as well like him too. And it was nice to listen to while doing the dishes and stuff. So then down here we have Halo, which is a shrimper thing, and I've forgotten what that is. It's a shrimper thing. Shrimper had all sorts of like interesting little things in the 90s and 2000s, mostly the 90s, and I collected a few of them. All right, so let's start with a bad album. I've been listening to, like, a few of the albums I've listened to have been bad. Dub Narcotic Sound System was, I would say, bad. Maybe the lyrics are good, but the music's pretty bad. Fripp and Eno, that's not bad. Evening Star, this is the British version. I did some Fripp earlier, including the Antilles version of this a couple weeks ago. Gamelan, that was amazing. The Gamelan music of Bali. I highly recommend checking out Gamelan music. And then there's some, this is a Vietnamese one that sort of sprouts up, those sort of things do. A few other ones. If I can't read the writing on it, it's probably great. That's a rule of thumb. In fact, this is, I don't know, especially, it's got one of these like blank tapes and it's not even a real thing. Probably great. I should move on though. So now we move on to a hippie called Stephen Halpern, who likes to talk about how he's healing people and stuff. But I don't mind his stuff. I like that he's got, keyboards and interesting, like, I've gotten getting more into keyboard music, electronic music, so this has synthesized music. Usually it's sort of the same music. I think he revisits a lot of his stuff with the Spectrum and Crystal Suites and things like that. But I've been getting into him in the last 4 years or so. 5 years maybe. I had some before I moved too. So, okay, and then we've got down here, boy, is this lighting working? I can't even see it. The lighting's all over. There we go. Hammer, which is from the Tool Dice series. I've got most of these, if not all of these. The Simple Machines. The most famous, of course, is the Dave Grohl one, the Pocket Watch one. But a lot of these are as good or better. In fact, we're going to get into another one, which is even greater. But first, a bad album. Colonel Hampton and the Fiji Mariners. That was terrible. Like, the Grease Band album from the late 60s is pretty good, but yikes. Okay, and then Herbie Hancock. This is kind of fun because he did like a cover of the Nirvana, the last album off In Utero, and it's like a jazz guy from, was, I don't know, relevant in the 60s to 70s and stuff, doing, and I guess some would say the 80s if you're into jazz, doing a Nirvana song. I don't think Kurt Cobain was that into jazz, but he makes it work. Anyway, I had an original of this that I dubbed back in the 90s, and now I've got the original. I did a copy, and now I've got the original. A couple more Bollywoods. Okay, now let's try to keep going. And because I'm already half done, I'm going to make 2 videos again. Damn. Okay. Lou Harrison, Keith Jarrett on piano. Keith Jarrett is a great pianist. The original British All Things Must Pass. These ones here were a couple of dub tapes, like Jamaican type dub. Enjoyable. PJ Harvey, 4 tracks from one of her albums, I think, Rid of Me. Promo version, of course. And then John Hassell, not to be confused with Lou Harrison. There's a lot of more contemporary composers in H. It's a good letter. I don't know if it's as strong as G, but it's got some good stuff, including some composers like, and then people like John Hassel kind of like fall in between composers. He's, most well known for working with Eno. Now this was what I was talking about with the Tool and Die series. This is probably the best Tool and Die thing. Actually, it's Hated. Sorry. Hated is the name of the band. This is punk music from 84 and 85. But it is like, it's so like kind of ahead of its time good. It just kind of, it's very forward pointing to me. I don't know. Somehow they really captured something there. Here's some Julian Hatfield, including a promo of Hey Babe and then all of her most recent things. She's all right. I like her. I think I had something to say about her earlier, but I've forgotten. Hartsfield is a sort of like late 60s band. I think that might be from 69. And then Heavy Cruiser, another late 60s band. Now, like, this album sounds like it's going to be the heaviest, like, most amazing album. Because, like, the bass comes in with do, and then the drums come in, and then the guitar... and then somehow the rest of it comes in and goes like do, and then it's like, okay, this is not what I hoped it would be. I'm not really saying much with that. I don't know what I'm singing to you, but take my word for it, it's not that great. And it starts off really promising. Helium, Pirate Prude, if you know Helium. Yeah, I saw them once, but Thurston Moore said, hey, we wanted to get a band called Cock ESP. I thought he said Cocky as P, but he said Cock ESP. And later, Cock ESP played at my house, so that worked out. They were opening for Sonic Youth, but they didn't really want Helium. Helium's like, I don't know. They got The Dirt of Luck, 5 tracks from it, and the full album. Here's some Helmet. I always crank Helmet when I'm wanting to relive the 90s because it's so simple. Some Jimi Hendrix stuff, including a tribute, and the BBC session is probably most interesting. Henry Cow's Unrest, as well as Desperate Straits. Yeah, original Henry Cow. Her, I just watched this movie the other day. The soundtrack to Her. Let me just say something about Her. I thought that the AIs were going into space. I thought they were taking off in a ship to go into space, which I think will happen. But actually, I guess they'd found a way to eliminate matter, so they don't even exist in our dimension anymore in the movie. Anyway, like the movie makes me sad from the moment when she says that she can think it, like she reads a book and it takes her 0.002 of a second to read the book. Then like every second to her is an eternity, pretty much. And so a sentence is, I don't know. It's just terribly sad to think of that AI. Okay, so Mike Haran, that was the Incredible String Band person. That's a pretty good album, really rocks. Cape Fear is just, that's Bernard Herrmann. That I don't know whether the modern arrangement of this is good, but it is an incredible, it's good. Why am I saying? It's incredible for its time. Anyway, what am I saying? This is an original video game that was okay. And here we get to Joe Hisaishi. I've only got 2 minutes left before this goes out. I'm going to probably cut this off and just do another one and just talk about these things. All right, but I'll start talking about Joe Hisaishi here. So he is somebody I got into because of the Studio Ghibli films, which are, for kids, I understand. But somehow they make me nostalgic for a time I never experienced in Japan in the 80s. Especially Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind. There's something kind of morbidly melancholy about them, and I love that. I just can't stop watching it because it's so sad. I mean, even when it's like supposed to be happy, it's just miserably sad to me, and lonely, and just despondently lonely. So I get something out of that. I don't know. It just appeals to me. So I've got 3 versions of Nausicaa. Plenty of Lapida. I feel like Nausicaa and Lapida are the best soundtracks he ever came out with, because there's so many melodies. People kind of maybe criticize the 80s-ness of them, and the synth versions, but I feel like the synthesizers and stuff he was doing was kind of pretty interesting for a children's movie, as well as just really riveting. Yeah, so I've got multiple versions of both of them, and then a few of Totoro too, and Kiki's. Kiki's is very good, but then we get into, then it's kind of over, because we get into these other things like I Am Lost City Symphonic, and then here's a Korean version of Spirited Away right here, and I certainly like Spirited Away. Has some great musical moments as well that are certainly more sophisticated, you could argue. And then this row ends with this little thing here. Okay, ending strong now. This MTV hit remix isn't what you would think it is. It's actually a modern Bollywood thing with some people that, not what you would think. This is a Chinese tape here. Another Vietnamese. This is whatever. This guy's making this stuff. Who is this one? I forget who this is, but this guy screws these tapes up to this. This is one of the sides is totally blank. I wouldn't buy these tapes if you see him. He's kind of got a thing going on, but I mean, it's not like I'm missing too much anyway. It's just whole unplugged. Anyway, so Hollies. Oh yes, I got this. I'm still living at the old place, but I didn't listen to them yet. But these are all the old Hollies albums. Their drummer is actually really good, which is weird. I mean, he doesn't play in a band where he ever showcases his drumming, but it's very solid. I mean, at least I think it is. I always wonder about certain drummers, whether they're regarded as good because they sound really good within this context of the band. But anyway, he seemed like one of those. Really sort of good but understated. Another Vietnamese, and then this, and then some James Horner. Now, James Horner is one of my favorite movie composers ever. I love this Star Trek 3, The Wrath of Khan here. When they're stealing the Enterprise, I highly recommend just checking that scene out, and how the music is completely... They use the tritone, and I believe that was used in... who did the Titanic soundtrack? That also, used an interval of major chords going to tritones to illustrate the weight and the heft of these ships, these massive ships. So, they're as far apart in tonality as you can get from going from major chords to the tritone. It really and then the French horns are just I think playing about as loud as you can ever play a French horn. I mean, yeah, the way it fits, and they're basically stealing the Enterprise, and they're going through these giant ship doors, and they barely make it because Scotty finally breaks through the code. And anyway, I don't want to get too into the weeds on it, but it's the way the music works with the visual is what you would want to pay attention to if you want to be impressed with how a composer can really create a moment. And in fact, you never hear that anymore. This is basically a 20th century thing, as far as I can tell. The composers used to be able to create musical moments that were, that were integrated and made you feel something. And now it's just a bunch of pounding drums, and nobody knows how to do it. Apparently, nobody can write music anymore. It's kind of weird, but I mean, I'm not missing anything because I just listened to this stuff, and I got plenty to listen to. House Hits 88 is early House Hits. This is kind of worth, believe it or not, worth checking out because, yeah, maybe it's from a time when this was very new, techno was so new. I love that time, and people don't really know how to dance or what drugs to do or whatever, and they don't quite know what they're doing. They look a little awkward, but it's it's because it's from the late 80s, and like I think the first rave I went to was in 93, and it was insane. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there in the middle of the dance floor not knowing what to do, but I was just taking it in. I didn't really do too many drugs, by the way. Not really a drug person. House of Large Sizes is a band from the past too. One of the first bands I ever saw. And this was the album that was coming out in that time. Yeah, I think they were playing songs off this. This isn't really going to mean much to anybody other than me and somebody from Iowa maybe, but yeah, this is a pretty great album, really. I think they started trying to like really make it. You know, they didn't make it, really. They're kind of a big regional band that kind of dropped off the label and stuff. But I have all their albums, including their first one. Oh, and I have a demo of theirs from, I feel like that's from the early, like 91 or something. I love getting like early type things from the, the 90s. It almost doesn't even matter what it is. But this band is actually quite good. House of Large Sizes. They're fun to see live, and they're one of the first bands I ever saw. I'm glad that they're one of the first bands I ever saw, because, they bring it, and here's another, like, Midwest thing, the House on the Rock. This is, like, this stuff you'll hear at the House on the Rock, just sort of, I don't even know how to describe this. I guess it's, like, calliope and odd little, you'll hear, what is it? Not the Mikado, maybe the Mikado, but, what's it called? The Bravado. Bolero, that's right, the Bravado, not the Bravado. Baer is a band, like a riot girl band from Britain that didn't get really as much attention as like Bikini Kill, at least here, because whatever, they're British, and I don't know if people really fit them into the, they know about them, but they don't like think of them, I guess. But I got those for cheap, and okay, this is just a sort of different copy of New Day Rising here. It's just simply that it has, I already had New Day Rising, but this has doesn't have a barcode or something. Oh, and this is, I think, Warehouse Songs of Stories promo or something. I don't know. Sure. Most of my Husker do is, of course, in the other section. I've got most of that already. And Zakir Hussein is an incredible percussionist who plays tabla, and he can play with his fingers. You can play just so many more notes than with just regular percussion, or sticks rather, with sticks. You can get a rebound and play a double stroke roll really fast, but you can't quite play as fast as, well, some drummers can maybe. But Zakir he can just bust out these rolls that are mind-boggling. Speaking of mind-boggling, we end with David Hykes. This is one of my favorite, most valuable tapes here. His music was featured in another movie I've been thinking about quite a bit lately called The Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams. I can't say the word anymore on YouTube. The scene where someone's young life ends, I guess you can put it that way. But yeah, it's at the very end, and it's. I was just reading about it, but he and a whole bunch of choir do overtonal, like throat singing type things, where there's I guess the word you say is hurry, like hurry, and then you get like an overtone going. I can't really do it, but these guys can, and they do it in a choir. So there's a sad lack of albums from this person and knowledge of this choir, because they're an experience. This album here, the volume 1, is from 1982, I believe, and you can see like the glue is all messed up on it now, but I got it for like only about $100, so I did pretty good. Finally, Dick Hyman, his Moog album. This is like, I think, 1969 Moog album, when the Moog was very new. Or maybe it's 71. Unfortunately, Dick Hyman he isn't quite ready for the kind of instrument that he's playing. because like a lot of it's just kind of circusy type stuff, but it does, like some of the stuff does point to something, and it's worth checking out. But you haven't heard him because it's one of those albums where they're just simply there to feature the Moog. Anyway, I believe that is all for H for this week. Next week is I's. I's are kind of sparse, as you can imagine, but there's a lot of incredible string band that I collected in the last 4 years, and I'll be talking about that.